Heyo, I'm Katie.
And it's your co-host Corey, and we are back. This is the Press Next podcast.
Whoop,
Listen, I
whoop.
know it's been a little bit since we have made an episode, but April is a really busy month for us, so we've had a lot of stuff going on, and we wanted to take the time to watch films and do stuff to be able to do our research, so that we can give y'all the topic and the conversations that we want. So, thank y'all for tuning back in, and I think this month should be. I think is a pretty specific month.
Mhm.
So we're going to be talking about a lot about sexual assault. So here's your trigger warning. If this topic is a tough topic for you, it is completely okay for you to skip this month or not listen to this episode, but we want you to be ready to hear what we are going to be talking about, because we will bring on people. Some of those people may be sharing their stories. And this topic is very triggering. So if doesn't matter what gender you are, if this is a topic that you ascribe to and it is triggering for you, please, we are just doing this to have this, to center a conversation around it, to bring light to it, and to get some information and resources out there. So today we're going to be talking about a movie called Knock Knock, and it is starring Keanu Reeves. Y'all remember Keanu Reeves from The Matrix, Neo. He doing all his
Okay, you remember him from The Matrix, but I wasn't really into would you consider that a sci-fi film?
Yes.
I wasn't really into that growing up, so I remember Keanu Reeves from The Replacements.
The Replacements? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The
That's
football
okay.
movie.
Yeah, we'll take that one too.
And then also Hardball.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Oh,
Mhm.
oh my goodness.
All the sports
G-Baby.
movies.
Yeah, I don't know why he was like the sports movie guy back in the Gap, but yeah, R.I.P. G-Baby. And I love it when you call me Big Papa. Yeah, I haven't seen Hardball in a long time. We used to always sing like the theme song because we used to love Sammy. I don't know if you listened to Sammy back in the day, but he did the theme song, "The Strike One, Caught You by Surprise." Yeah, that was the jam. Yeah, but this has Keanu Reeves. It also has what is her name? Her name is Ana de Armas. I hope I did not butcher that. But she was in
Knives Out.
Knives Out. She was pretty much one of the main characters in the Knives Out, the nurse. She was in that.
This is a very different role.
Yeah, an extremely different role. Okay, like Knives Out is what introduced me to her, and then seeing this role, I was like, huh? What
I
mean?
know,
Like,
same.
This is kind of left field.
Sweet little girl.
Yeah, she's not sweet in this film. Okay. And so here's what the bill is for this film. This film is a devoted father helps two stranded young women who knock on his door. But his kind gesture turns into a dangerous seduction and a deadly game of cat and mouse. And when I say deadly, I do mean deadly. And it's a very interesting film.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So basically, with synopsis.
Interesting is the word.
Yeah, interesting is definitely the word. So if you have not watched the film and you want to watch the film before you listen to this, go ahead and pause right now. Go watch the film on Netflix, and then come back and listen to it. It came out in 2015. If you want to listen to it, that's fine. Listen to this episode and then go watch it. Maybe you'll have a different perspective.
2015?
Yeah, it was 2015.
Oh, I did not realize it was that old. I thought it was a newer movie.
Nah, I just think that it probably didn't get a lot of press. You know what I mean? And so it seemed kind of old to us. I mean, it seemed new to us, but it came out in 2015, and I kind of
did they just put it on Netflix? Is that why?
Yeah, it hasn't been on Netflix for too long.
Okay,
I mean, it's been on Netflix for a while, but it hasn't been on Netflix for too long. So that's probably why it seems like it's new to us.
Yeah,
but yeah, go watch that film if you want to watch that film. If not, you can listen to this, because the censor topic of today's conversation is around, of course, sexual assault, but we're going to talk about coercion. Okay, so that'll be a lot of stuff. But before we get into all of that, we'll do what we normally do, which is just rate the movie, because it is a film, so it is art and supposed to be entertainment. So scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolute garbage and 10 being an amazing film. Where are you at and why? That's not good.
I give it a 5.
Okay, right down the middle.
I give it a 5 because it wasn't a trash movie. It was like, it had me on the edge of my seat, but it wasn't good either. Like, I didn't like it that much. I mean, like, the premise of it, I think, was good. And I think it started off strong. And then I just kind of was losing interest. And I think it became way more. I think you could have gotten the point across without being as sexualized as it was.
Okay.
And that's not something that I typically have an issue with in movies. It's not something that turns me off of movies. I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
I feel you.
I didn't hate it. If I watched it again with somebody who hadn't seen it or whatever, like, I probably would watch it again. But I'm not gonna say, "Ooh, I haven't seen that in a while. Let me watch that." It's not something that I'm going to choose. Like, if it's on, I'll watch it. But it's not something that I'm picking out.
Okay. I feel that. And I think it's important to, like, just a quick breakdown of what the film is. Essentially, Keanu Reeves is this guy. Like, he's kind of like the run-of-the-mill normal
Oh yeah, we probably
dude.
should have started with this.
Yeah. It's okay though. He's probably like the normal run-of-the-mill guy who has like a bunch of old, habits and hobbies. He used to be like a DJ. His wife is this like art savant, and so their house is very nice because she's pretty much a designer and she has stuff that's about to go into this gallery. So she's a really an artiste, and it's raining outside. There's a knock on the door, and it's these two girls who are claiming, "Hey,
Well,
we
the
don't know how
family
to-"
left town. He was the only one in town.
Okay, so he's the only one at the house. He has 2 kids and a wife. The wife and kids left town. He's the only one there. So these two girls knock on the door. They're like, "Hey, we the Uber dropped us off here, or if you're Dr. Umar, the Uber, the Uber dropped us off here. This is the wrong address. We don't have signal. We don't know how to get to this person's place. Can you help us out?" And of course, he's like, "Nah, like I really can't. Like it's not that big of a deal. Just use your phone." He's like, "Well, they're like, we need to charge." Anyway, they work their way inside this man's house. He's just being a nice guy, like a normal, like nice guy. And their clothes are wet, so he's like, "Okay, I'll put your clothes in the dryer. You can dry them off, and I'll call you an Uber." He actually does call an Uber to get to the correct address for the girls. And so they're waiting. The Uber's like a 30-minute away because they're in like the hills, right? And then essentially what it boils down to is that Keanu Reeves cheats with the 2 girls on his wife, and the 2 girls end up staying the next day and pretty much torturing him because he cheated on his wife. And then they trash the place and everything. And then the wife comes home to a trash place, and essentially a scene that shows that Keanu Reeves cheated on her with the 2 girls. I mean, that's the gist of the film. Obviously, they go into a lot more detail, but that's pretty much the gist. I mean, they end up like killing somebody, so it's pretty in the thick of stuff. But I agree with you. I would probably say like a 4.5 or a 5. I feel you. It's just really me being gracious. It's kind of hard to tell that story,
Yeah.
If you like, how, in what other way can you really tell the story of of kind of coercion? Or here's really why I think that I give it a 5. I don't really understand the girls' like passion of why they do this to men, because you learn in the
That's true.
film this is what they do. They pretty much stalk married men, and when they get the chance to do this, they do this to them.
Right. And then they typically kill whoever cheats.
Right. It's like a game to them.
Punishment. Yeah. But like you said, you never understand, like there's no backstory on how these women became scorned, or, why they do this.
Right.
What the point is.
So it's just, it's something that I'll probably never click on again. If I do, it's probably because like, for instance, right now I have a headache and I'm like, oh, I want to take a nap. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the movies that I'll start like for 15 or 20 minutes. If I fall asleep, I'm fine. If I'm doing laundry, I'm fine. Or if I'm cooking dinner and I don't have to necessarily watch the film, I'll probably, put it on if I just want background noise. But it wasn't like bad necessarily to watch for the first time. So it wasn't too terrible where you just gonna cut it off.
Right.
It's a film that you can finish, but not necessarily be like proud of like, oh, this was a good film.
Right. And I think that this is good because I feel like a lot of the movies or TV shows or documentaries that we cover, we know they're good, right? Like
Right. This is the
people
first one
have
we're like,
talked about them, people have raved about them, their box office hits, and this is the first one where we aren't really fans of it. So I think that that's a cool perspective as well.
yeah, definitely. So let us know how y'all feel about the film because y'all might feel completely different. But I do think what we got from the film, or at least what I took away from the film, was, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it specifically in this month is the theme of coercion
Mm-hmm.
and how it relates to sexual assault. And so we'll kind of get into that. So we'll be talking about stats and everything else. So I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with like some of the overarching stats of sexual assault in general, which is like every 73 seconds an American is sexually assaulted, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
that's a wild, just almost unfathomable number. Um, it's just wild, and you know that what the risk factors are. Specifically with women, it's like one out of every 6 women has experienced some sort of SA violence or sexual violence. It's like one out of 10 men. So this is way too many people, and the thing is, one really is too many. So it's
Right.
not to say like 10. There's a threshold and 4 is okay. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
Right.
is that like 1 is too many and 10 is ridiculous.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? 1 is too many and 6 is ridiculous. And so there's different. And I think that when we think about sexual assault in America and probably a lot of other places, we typically think about men assaulting women, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And fairly so. Okay, obviously women are at a higher risk of it happening. So fairly so. I'm not saying that it's not fair. Rarely do I ever have conversations about men being victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, and things of that
Right.
nature. Do you feel
Right.
the same? You have thoughts on that?
No, I definitely do. And I don't know if it comes from. So I think that the stats, and I think that this goes for both sides, because obviously we know that I don't want to say majority, but a lot of sexual assaults go undocumented, unreported.
Right.
And I
Right.
feel like for men, that's probably at a higher rate. I don't want
Mm.
to say that men get assaulted at a higher rate than women, but I feel like the lack of reporting or the lack of reporting is at a higher rate because and you can talk on this if you want to from a man's perspective, but I feel like men almost see it as a sign of weakness. And so they don't want to report it because as a man, you're supposed to be in charge, right? Or you're supposed to have control over situations. And I could be totally off base, but as a woman, that's how I view.
Kind of view it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. And me just thinking about it is not necessarily even. I mean, yeah, I think that's a factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the other and we're thinking, and typically when we think about sexual assault, we think about it from the most despicable. It's all despicable, but you're like we typically think about this like male figure who is like gnarly and nasty and like being very physical with somebody. When that's not
Right.
necessarily the case on a lot of times, right? When we're talking
Right. And I
about
think that we could talk about that too as how it's not just like
it's not how you think necessarily
blindfolding
it is.
you and
Yes.
pushing you into a room. You don't know who I am. I'm in and out. Like it's people you know. It's groping. It's coercion. It's
Right.
when I am having consensual sex and I tell you to stop because you're doing something I don't want you to do, or I change my mind and you keep going, like that then becomes assault. You know, like
Right.
you can
Right.
change your mind. You can withdraw consent at any time, man or woman, and that then
Yeah, I think a lot, and I may be wrong, but just speaking from my own perspective of things that have happened to me personally, and then also from people who I know, like my friends said, a lot of what I know when I talk to my friends and other people, when they have experienced other men who have experienced sexual assault or sexual violence, it has been at the hands of coercion.
Yeah.
Which is where this film kind of sets its ground in. So the definition of sexual coercion is this: it's unwanted sexual activity that happens when you're pressured, tricked, threatened, or forced in a non-physical way. I think that's very important, right? So coercion can make you think that that you owe sex to somebody. And I think this happens a lot. This happens a lot in relationships, right? Like a lot in relationships. Because we're talking about coercion. We're talking about like, all right, it can look like outright threats, right? Oh, if you don't sleep with me, fine. Like, your friend's pretty drunk. I bet you won't say no. That's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's hurtful. That's pretty threatful. Social pressures, emotional manipulation, badgering, like guilt trips is one that I think is pretty huge. I've been feeling so lonely. Like, I need you right now. Like, that's continuing on. That is coercion after somebody's already said no. Denying affection. Oh, since I did not give you any because I just said that I'm not in the mood or don't want to have sex, I shut down, or I make snarky and rude comments, or I get abrupt and like push you away and just try to make you feel bad about yourself. I kind of gaslight you, right? That's what we talked about last episode. And so I'm trying to trick you into getting what I want. I'm trying to coerce you into getting in what I want. And so this film is all about that. From the second the girl showed up, he wasn't about even letting him in the house.
Yeah.
And they kept pushing him to get inside the house. And every single step of the way where he says no, they coerce him to do something more, right? And so here's the question that really begs when it comes from this movie. The scene that starts it all, where he cheats, is this. He calls the Uber. The Uber pulls up. He goes to check on the girls. The girls are in the shower. So he accidentally kind of walks in the bathroom. And they're in the shower. So he closes the door. He's like, what are y'all doing? They pull him in. He's like, I need y'all to get out. The Uber's here. Get out my house. Boom, boom, boom. They are continuously, no, just be with us. You don't want to be with two different girls. You don't want to do this. Just be with us. Nobody will know. He says no like 20 times. The entire time they're holding him back. They're unzipping his pants.
And he's like trying not to look at them because they're
right. They're
booty
naked.
butt naked.
Right. And he's like legitimately looking away, so he's not looking at them, trying to be as respectful as he can while he's helping these women out. Eventually, they are now engaging in sexual acts. And then what does he do? He continues that sexual act until the act is over. The entire movie from then on is based on the fact that he cheated on his wife. Right? I contend, I mean, yes, he cheated on his wife. He was sexually assaulted. Like, that's how I viewed it. That man said no from the get-go and was continually pressured, and even physically. He was non-physically coerced and then even physically coerced.
Right.
And just because he completed it, people will probably rebut or have said, oh, this person must have wanted it because they continue to go through it. You ever been in a situation where you just do something just to get it over with?
Yeah, every day at work.
You're okay.
Just kidding.
That is funny. A regular comedian. No, there's plenty of times where, you've been coerced into doing something. You're like, I'm just going to do it. Even though I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it just so I can get it over with. Right?
Right.
And so it was specifically when we're talking about sex, that was my view of him in the film. Do you feel different? Like, do you feel that the girls have a leg to stand on? Because for me, their leg was that, hey, you cheated on your wife and we're going to torture you. And I think it should be the other way around. I think he should be like, I didn't come for you. You came for me. You continually wanted me to do something to you. Then you did something to me and I continued that. And you want to say, I'm the one that, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely think that he was coerced into everything that happened. So I agree with you. And I don't think that I necessarily saw it as that at first. And then when we started talking about it, just because you don't think of coercion, right? Like you don't necessarily, or I don't necessarily think of that like right off the top as being a form of sexual assault. And so when I was watching it, I was like, wow, those girls are really crappy. Like, why do they keep pushing him? And it was really just like pressure. And it was so much that I started to feel anxious. I was like, oh my gosh. As a viewer, I was
like that second hand.
Yes, I was anxious watching it, and then when you said that, I was like, you know what? You're right. Like that was coercion and that was sexual assault.
It's just wild. Like we don't when we get to talking about, because if the roles were reversed, right? And this is really why I'm talking about that, is that in the way that we see, if the roles were reversed, I think it's very clear to see.
Right. And
Right?
it wasn't a mistake that these two females were young. They were beautiful. They had the ideal body image, or the ideal body that society says is what is right, you know?
Right.
It wasn't a mistake that those girls were casted, because you see it from a different point of view.
Right.
When it's like, why wouldn't you want to have sex with these two beautiful women?
Exactly. And so that's why, if we're circling all the way back, I think that's why it's the underreporting kind of happens, right? Is that our society, when it comes for men, at least, like I think there's other reasons why women underreport. If we're speaking about women, for the most part, we can go into believing women, because I feel like that's an issue. How hard it is to get somebody who is a perpetrator behind bars or held accountable. I mean, those are all reasons, and very valid reasons, as to why women who suffer are not necessarily reporting. And I think for men, it's more kind of the social constructs behind it. One, is there really any huge precedent out there that we know? You know what I mean? There's no.
Right.
I'm not looking. Have I seen laws? Have I seen TV episodes? You know, besides like Law and Order Special Victim Unit, have I seen? Do I see representation even in this film? I think the film had an opportunity to show this side of it. Instead, they showed a man who was coerced into having sex as being a cheater and not deserving of life.
Right.
Does that make sense? So to me, I think that plays a role into, and then status is, you know, when it comes to males having other sexual partners, and or if you're younger and being coerced into having sex with somebody who is older, you know, there's a status there, and I say that with certain experiences and knowing, like when I was in high school, you know how many dudes I knew in high school who were having sex, who were underage, having sex with 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 25-year-olds. That was all sexual assault.
Yeah.
But the status that came with like knowing that you were having sex with the older woman at that time was like, oh, that was cool. That made you like a cooler person. That also made you a victim, and you were getting manipulated and played off of the knowledge. So it's just weird I think now I'm so happy to be much older, to be able to recognize these things, and even recognize the activities and behaviors in myself, because I did grow up in this chauvinistic male driven world who has partaken in some of these same actions, not necessarily sexual assault. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that, have I pressured somebody to do something before? Or at least try to? Yes. Did I think it was coercion at the time? No. You see what I'm saying? Like even like, oh, I'm upset, and so me being upset is maybe going to change your mind on how you feel. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah,
it's just, this is a very tough topic, especially coming from a male standpoint. So I would love to have other males, you know, to speak on their own behalf of stories that they have about their encounters, not only with themselves but with other people. So, question that I have.
you were talking about coercion in relationships and
yes,
not seeing it as coercion at the time. So, do you think that coercion plays into relationships, and how do you think that how do you think that it does?
Yes. So I think that okay, so there's a common, like, I guess not necessarily a misconception, but a common grounds to where, if we're talking about sex, I'm going to use marriage, because we're married, and other people who are married may feel the same way that I feel. Sex is a part of marriage, right? Unless
surprise,
unless you are you have been with your partner and y'all kind of recognize that you both just don't really enjoy sex, and that's fine. But for most healthy marriages, sex is a very vital piece.
Mhm.
Now there is a mindset that some people have that you are kind of obligated to your partner,
Right.
even when you don't. I have legitimately seen TikToks of women saying, "Hey, even if you don't necessarily feel like it, you need to give it up to your husband." I've literally seen TikToks of women saying that. Okay, which is a wild thought to me, but here's why it's a wild thought to me. My body is my body and your body is your body. We choose to share it with each other,
Right.
right? Okay. Now, there are times that I feel, or I may feel obligated to do so, right? I'm
Mhm.
sure there are times where you may feel obligated to do so, but our feeling of obligations does not mean that it has to happen or should happen. All right. How many times I'll tell you that feelings doesn't mean it is what it is,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So just because you feel a certain way does not make it true. So follow me here. Here's why I
Okay.
think it kind of plays a role. Some people take those feelings as being very true. And yes, those feelings do have a role in the relationships and could have a role in the deterioration of the relationship.
Right.
But I think that there's plenty of times where you can make somebody feel bad about like not giving you sex, right?
Yeah.
And you can do it in whatever way that is more natural to you. So I'm probably not somebody who's gonna say something like, "Good luck finding somebody else who wants to sleep with you." You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't me. I'm not gonna say something
Right.
like that. Like, you know, but I may push too much or talk too much about it to try to implant the idea in your mind. I might, knowing myself, if I'm trying to step away from something or steer away from something, I could shut down and not even know that I'm necessarily shutting down,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
that could persuade you to say, "Oh, hey, he's shutting down because we haven't had sex, so I need to have sex with him." Even though that's your motive for having sex shouldn't be based off of my
Someone
emotional
else's
drive.
feelings. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so when it becomes that, I think that it is. And I question everybody who's listening who's in a relationship or has been in a relationship. Just think about that. Have you ever had sex with somebody, your partner who, here's your partner, you chose to sleep with them. Have you ever had sex with them on the basis of like, oh, this person's pouting or I just want to make them feel better or whatever. So I'm just going to
Or
do it.
it's been 2 weeks, so I guess
Right.
it's time before I start hearing about it. And
Exactly. Let me
yeah.
get it over with because at 2 weeks and 4 days, it's going to be nonstop. I'm going to be hearing about it.
Mhm.
And so I think those little things are all a part of that like coercion, like
Right.
cycle.
Mhm.
It's like, bro, I just don't want to. I don't want
I
to have
think
sex.
Yeah, I think the first time that I heard about sexual assault in a marriage, I think was an SVU episode, like one of the earlier ones. Um, and I could be wrong; it could have been something else, but it was definitely on TV. And someone said that they thought that their uh, husband had sexually assaulted them, and a lot of people were like, "What? How is that possible? You're married to
Right.
them, like." That can't be true. And then, it really opened my eyes to whether you're in a relationship or not, whether you're married or not, you do not owe your body to anyone else. Like
Yeah.
just because you're married to someone does not mean that doesn't mean that they have control over your body. You still have the wherewithal to say yes or no.
Right. Right. And so I feel that there's a lot of people who I'm telling you, when I saw that TikTok, there was plenty of people in the comments who felt
I
like,
know, and people think that. I know, it's crazy.
and so it's wild. Like, where do we go from there? How do we get people to not think that, to recognize that your body is in fact your body? And if you would like to share that with somebody, that's a choice that you have and you should have, and nobody should take that choice away from you.
Mhm.
And it's just I feel as a human, I feel disgusted that like I really wish when people say, "Do you wish you can go back and like do something different?" I do wish I can go back and do stuff different. I would never have like catcalled women or things of that nature when I was younger. had I truly knew what it did to women, what I was doing, and things of that nature. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like, I don't think, and even with, I saw TikTok yesterday. I'm sorry I reference TikTok a lot, but obviously I be on TikTok all the time. But I saw
All
one
the time.
yesterday.
It's his new hobby.
It is my new hobby. And shout out to everybody who liked my video about Tony Stark and Iron Man, because it went viral, 500,000 views, you know what I'm saying? But there's a TikTok yesterday. There's a bunch of TikToks going around, so you can look this up, about the essay culture with women against women. And so, and I thought about that, and I was like, how do you feel about that? I would love to know. And they were talking about like the amount of times that like other women will slap another girl's butt, or, you know, say, "Ooh, you have nice breasts," and like touch their chest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like those things, does that happen? And people were like, and somebody in the comments said, well, it's not the same because like I'm a girl and we have the same parts.
That's not true.
Right. Like I still view that as that being like sexual
either-
harassment, sexual assault.
Either way, whether you want to classify it as sexual assault or not, like, just don't touch anybody else. Just keep your hands to yourself. Because we were in Kansas City last weekend, and there's this woman
Oh yeah.
who walked up to me, and it was like 10:30 in the morning. We were waiting on brunch.
She was
And
plastered.
this lady, yes, she was drunk at 10:30 in the morning, which if that's your thing, go for it, but keep your hands to yourself. She walked up to me and she was like, "You're so beautiful." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like, okay, because she was just staring in my face, and I was way too close for comfort. And I was like, "Thank you." Waiting for her to keep walking, and she didn't. And she was like, "You just have such perfect skin. Like, your complexion is so great." And then she reached both of her hands and caressed my face. And I was like, grabbed her arms and pushed them away from me, because like, yes, thank you for the compliment, I appreciate it, but one, we're in a panini. You're way too close.
Panini, the Panera bread.
Two, I have clear skin because I don't touch it, so I don't want your grimy hands on it. And three, don't touch me. Like, just don't touch me. You don't know me.
Some people don't have personal space or boundaries, which is why I feel like I get touched all the time and I can't stand it. And you be seeing this. People touch me all the time.
I touch you all the time.
Ooh, hey. This ain't that's not podcast friendly. People don't
not like that.
Our business. I'm just joking. No, like literally the other day I took a video of it, but he'd already gone. I was getting water at Walmart and some guy, I had my headphones on. My headphones in a public place literally mean don't talk to me. I have the big gaudy headphones over my ears to let you know that I am not focused on you. I do not want any interaction, no smoke with you. Why people go out of their way to try to interact with me, even though I have this clear, like, don't interact with me sign on my forehead, is wild. So I'm waiting on, we have these big 5-gallon jug waters. And if you don't know, it takes a lifetime plus 2 to get them to fill up. Okay. It literally takes forever for the water to fill up. This guy comes around out of nowhere, like taps me on my chest, like in the front, and does something weird with the water machine, like kind of insinuating that it's going so slow he needs it to go faster. And so I kind of just go like, yeah, go so slow. And he walks away. And in my head, I was like, what the hell? Why? Like, this is just a random guy who just walking past, just so happened to see me getting water. Why did you feel the need to interrupt me? Why did you feel the need to touch me? Is the number one thing. I get touched so much by strangers. It is so weird. So weird. In plenty of different ways. I will say this. I was at an event one time. I told you this, and Katie, well, I told you the night it happened. I was at an event one time, and I was trying to do something at this event, and alcohol was involved. I was not drunk, obviously, because I was working. And as I was backing up, this guy was in the way, but I really needed him to get out of the way because I was really working. Why did this man like grope me? Like he like grabbed my butt, but it was underneath my butt. So he definitely touched my private parts. And I'm in the middle of working, so I could not stop to address what just happened. I just looked at him in disgust, and then I was like, what just happened? But I can't stop working because also what I'm doing is videoing, so I can't just miss the moment. So it was just so wild. Like I get touched all the time by random people in random places, and it almost feels like normal, but you should not be getting touched. Like whether it be you're so pretty, I want to touch your face, or you just want to make me a joke or something. Just don't touch me, bro. There's plenty of different ways you can get my attention. Stop touching me. But anyway, back to coercion, sexual coercion. I think also like insisting that you have to follow through is another thing. Like I think that this may happen pretty often. Maybe one person's in a mood, one night, and the other person is like, tomorrow, like Lil James, tomorrow. And so then tomorrow comes, and that person's like, hey, you said yesterday tomorrow, so you know what I'm saying? You said yesterday tomorrow, even though the next day you might not be necessarily in the mood, and so you feel like, oh, I gotta do it, like. I feel like that happens as well. Do you feel like that's probably some sort of form of coercion as well?
Yeah. I mean, if the person, because you can have those thoughts with yourself, right? But I think if the other person brings it up and is like, you said tomorrow and it's tomorrow, and then it does become that, Right. Like if I'm holding it over your head, like holding you to your word.
Right. And even if you even ask about it, I think it's even okay to ask about, but if the answer then is like, yeah, I did say that, but I'm really not feeling it, then just like leave it alone.
Let it go. Right.
Right.
And I think that there's that fine line of, I think there's a fine line of bringing it up. And that's what I was going to kind of say before you made that point, is that you have to have, especially like if in a relationship, like if you know this person, having that open conversation of, yeah, I said that, but I'm not really feeling it. Or if they bring it up again, you can let them know whatever. Or even if they don't bring it up, but you are kind of feeling bad about it, and you let them know like, hey, I know I said this, but I'm not really feeling it. That way you don't feel pressured into anything.
Right. It's just, I think coercion is such a part of the relationship that I think a lot of people don't think about. And doing the research for this episode and watching this movie, I'm definitely going to be so much more aware of like engaging you specifically. You know what I mean? Like I just, at this point, everything seems so disgusting to me in this world that I just don't want to be a part of it, And it's hard, like we don't live perfect lives. Like I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm a sinner who's probably going to continue to sin, right?
I am a sinner.
Oh, here we go. Who's probably gonna sin again.
We had two different songs.
I was J. Cole. You was going Kendrick. That's funny.
Hey, two favorites.
Right, on the two coasts, but they two of our favorites. So that's funny. But I guess they're both, one and the same in what we're talking about. I don't claim to be perfect. I do not. I mean, I would love to be perfect, but I'm not going to be that. I recognize that. But I think that if I continue to try my best, that just is, what it is, and I can live with that. I can live with that. That doesn't mean my intent is not always going to impact people in the way that I want it to.
Right.
But I'll live with that if my intent was really good, and I'm going to apologize and continue to get better. I do have a question for you though. If you were Evan's wife, you come home, Evan is Keanu Reeves in this movie. You come home, the house is trash. You just found out your husband cheated on you. How do you believe his story?
Well, okay. Remind me, didn't a video get sent to her? Well, a video was posted on Facebook.
They posted on Facebook. Yeah, they posted
like a video. Live.
Like they posted a video of the deed being done on Facebooky. And man, so it's like, do you believe him now? Because obviously all the deck is stacked against him. Nobody's going to believe him. You are his wife. You have 2 kids with him. How do you react?
It don't look good. It don't look good. I don't know. So I think that my initial reaction would be like, what the heck and Bob is going on here? Like I think my first, and this is just knowing me, and this is a character flaw, but I think my first reaction would be accusatory.
That's okay. I think a lot of people's first reaction would be that.
And then we would have to have a discussion.
A very
because
deep
I would
one.
need some explanation.
Right. Then the question becomes, do you accept the explanation? Because
Right.
it's pretty hard for him to explain what actually happened to him when you can
Mhm.
watch him get, having sex with somebody else online. And everybody
Right.
saw it, right? And
Right.
so the big part about this really is the question I really want to get to is why is cheating like the end all for everybody? When this situation, if you think about it, in my head at least, this situation probably happens more often than not. Not necessarily where they're like torturing the man. What I'm saying is there's coercion that probably happens for either side, for men and for women. And the intent and the purpose and everything really could be that the person was trying to do good, but they were coerced into having sex. Why is cheating the end straw for everybody when there's so many other traumatic things that you can go through in a relationship, which in my opinion should pull the plug, but cheating is the one that everybody pulls the plug on? Like, why do you think that's a part of our culture?
Yeah. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
it is the lack of respect. It is the dissolution of respect. Like I don't even know if that's the right word to use right there. But to me, if you're stepping out on me, that means that you are disrespecting our vows that we took with each other. You made the decision to disrespect me, and I can't get with that.
Okay, let's talk about Evan. Knowing what you know about Evan, do you feel like Evan disrespected you and made the choice to necessarily disrespect you?
That's a tough one.
Right.
It's a tough
and you
one.
don't even
If
go ahead.
not know, and I say it's a tough one if you came into the situation not seeing what happened, right? Because I'm gonna be like, yeah, right. They forced your hand,
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like you don't know how you would react to a situation until you were in it. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, the point of me asking this question and giving you the duality of both, which I'm very actually excited you answered the way you did. I don't think there's necessarily a correct answer.
Right.
And I don't
think
have
there
all
is
the
either.
answers. That's why I'm asking the questions. So if you're listening, just think about this. The question boils down to, do you believe your partner's story or not? Because what happened to Evan, in a sense, could happen to your partner. And your partner's really trying to be truthful with you. And while you may dismiss it as being this person disrespected me and this person made the choice, they were really sexually assaulted and they were coerced into having sex.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way where you say something like, in a time where you're saying to believe the victim, are you doing that? Are you practicing what you preach?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm legitimately telling you, I tried everything that I could beyond knocking these hoes out. I mean, they legitimately did the deed, okay? They unzipped my pants and did the deed while one was holding my arms back and trying to suck on my neck. I couldn't even look at them. And at that point, it just took over and I wanted to get it done. So my point is, with cheating specifically, this just opened my eyes because I feel the same way as you for the most part. But I really do think there's so much nuance. And so I'm never, ever again going to talk about somebody who their partner has cheated on them and they stayed with them or whatever, because we never know. The devil is always in the details. And so we never know. So I'm just like, I'm done with that. However you live your life is how you're going to live your life. And I have no idea what happened inside your house.
Right.
So that's kind of what opened my eyes to it. Is like, hey, I get it. I just don't know why that's like for that. You said the loss of respect. I think there's plenty of ways you can lose respect for somebody in your relationship, but
No,
you still don't pull
definitely.
the
But
plug, you know?
right. But
I mean, and we know that most divorces end in like financial reasons.
mm-hmm.
And there's a level of respect in that as well. It's just, that's what I look at. I often question things like that. It's just, I always wonder why. Why is this the one thing as opposed to something else? And there's elements of power and control and some other things, but I think that's our question to y'all this week, you know? So the question we'll put out, we'll send out an email and hopefully you email us back or send us a video, which will be, you know, if you've been in a relationship, what is the end for you and why is it the end for you? Yeah, let us know that because I really want to know specifically.
And if you say
like,
cheating, tell us why. Because I know
Yeah,
a lot of people who are like, if you cheat on me, it's over. But like,
right.
tell us why. Like, what is your reasoning behind that? Is it disrespect? Is it just the trust is gone? Is it
you
like,
gave
let us
yourself
know.
to somebody else or whatever it may be? I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer. We would like to broaden our information. Right now, it's just coming out of the minds of us too and how we necessarily feel about it. But we want to know how you feel about it. So that's the thing. Email us, pressnextpodcast@gmail.com. We will also send out people who are on our email list. We'll send that out. Question of the week. So we'll probably start that this week. Question of the week. Email us back and let us know. But I can't get through this episode and give you all estimates and everything else without doing this because I think that this is really important. Okay. So obviously this month we're talking about sexual assault and we will break it down in different ways. Today's we're really talking about coercion. If you are thinking back or whatever, if you have ever been a victim of sexual assault by any means, there are resources out there for you. I think a very cool resource that I enjoy is the national is the RAINN.org, which is RAINN.org. Okay, they are a national organization for survivors in for sexual assault. So not only do they have a bunch of stuff on there, they have a bunch of resources. I mean, resources literally that can go down to like resources specifically for Black men, resources specifically for white women, resources specifically for whatever your group is that makes you feel the most comfortable when you're talking to somebody. They have resources for safety and prevention. They have public policy resources, so you can find out specifically in your state, in your area, what the policies are, what the laws are, what the rules are. They have consultation and trainings. Like they have so many things, safety and prevention. So go to RAINN.org, which is RAINN. .org and check that out. Wonderful website. Also, if you just want to have the National Sexual Assault Hotline, it is free. It is confidential. It is 24/7. It is 800-656-HOPE. Again, that's 800-656-HOPE. And you can chat with somebody for free, confidentiality, 24/7. You can also chat on the website for free as well in confidence. So those are some resources. There are thousands of resources out there. They do a great job, and the reason why I'm giving them props is they do a great job centralizing where all the resources are. So please check out that resource. Very, very nice resource. I'm going to continue to do that for the rest of these episodes so that you know where you could go to get some help if you need some help.
Amen.
Definitely. Before we get out of here, do you have any church announcements, as the Brilliant Idiots podcast would say?
I do not. Do you?
I do have one church announcement. I don't know if it's necessarily a church. It's a call to action, I guess you can say. Hey, listen, there's a couple things that we have done for you. This month, we're talking about sexual assault awareness, and we want you to be a guest on our show. So if you want to be a guest on our show, please sign up for that. There's a link in our bio, a link tree. It says guest request. Just fill out that form, and we will contact you to let you know if we want to feature you or not feature you. But please go there. It doesn't necessarily even have to be about this month. If you're like, oh, I want to be on the show sometime, there's a kind of a questionnaire that lets us know what you're interested about, and then we can kind of pick you out of the bunch whenever we're talking about that topic. Also, one of the cool things that I did this week, so I had a TikTok go viral. I go on TikTok live and I meet with some people. They're very cool. So we started this. And what we're doing now is this. Also in that link tree, there's a form for you to make movie suggestions, TV shows, documentaries, all this stuff. It can be in any language, whatever. If it is one of your favorite films and you want other people to watch it and stuff like that, go ahead and drop that suggestion in that form, because under the very same link tree, you will also be able to see the responses in like an Excel spreadsheet. So if you ever want to say, oh, what is everybody watching, or what is the Press Next podcast suggest, or the fans of the Press Next podcast, what do they suggest? It should all be there. So hit the link in our bio to get all the information to sign up to be on our email chain. We'll send out more emails than ever. And I'm just joking. We're not about to spam your email, but we will probably send out 1 or 2 a week just to keep you updated on what we're doing. Because you know how Instagram is. Sometimes they don't be showing you all your friends. That's the one thing I cannot stand about Instagram. Bro, I want to see my friends. Instagram. I want to see my friends and what they doing. Why am I seeing nothing but influencers and ads?
This is true. There are a lot of ads. Bro.
Goodness gracious. Like, what is this? I didn't follow a friend not to see them.
I just learned last week that on Instagram, and I just ignored it, I guess, all this time because I'm so used to it. Yes. But Corey was like, yeah, don't you realize that there's ads every 4 posts on Instagram? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, go to your feed and scroll. I promise you every 4th post is going to be either it's going to be a sponsored ad. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, go check it out. Go try it.
He was right. He was right. Every 3rd or 4th post is an ad, and I didn't realize it until he pointed it out, and now I'm like, why the heck are there so many ads?
Yeah. You can't even, I just don't understand. So I muted a bunch of people, and I still only see influencers. And so that's the one thing I hate about Instagram. Like, I follow my friends because
your timeline ain't nothing but ESPN and the Shade Room.
That's what I'm saying. That stuff. I don't want to see all the Shade Room. I want to see, my kids or my friends are having children or getting married or they just bought a home. That's that stuff that I want to see. Mm-hmm. I don't get to see that because of the dumbass algorithm that Instagram has. Goodness gracious.
But anyways, follow us on Instagram.
Yes, at the same time. And hopefully you'll be able to see our stuff. Hopefully. I don't know. We probably won't pop up in your stuff. But if we do, that's great. But follow us on Instagram, Press Next Podcast. You can also follow us on TikTok, Press Next Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Press Next Pod. And again, we are a self-funded podcast. So if you want to give us some coin just to show your support, could be $1, could be 10, could be the whole Joe Biden stimmy, the AKA, we did it, Joe.
Get out of here.
You want to drop that stimmy on us? That's cool too. That's Press Next Podcast on Venmo and on Cash App. So you can do that. And you know what it is. Go ahead, serve remote, Katie.
Yeah, so today's Sunday. It's probably going to be a TV day, so you're chilling and Netflix asks you, are you still watching? Always press next.
Hey, y'all do that. We love y'all.